Ja, hallo. Dankie man.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Avontuur Railway Ride Series. Today we're going to be starting where we left off in part 1, at the level crossing with Seaview Road, heading out of town towards Progress and St Albans. Joining me for today's adventure is Dirt Bike Goose, and the two of us are going to be following the railway line as closely as possible, making use of the maintenance and access roads along the way. So after all that drama getting through the Greenbushes, the next section is reasonably uneventful. If you're not familiar with the drama I speak of, I suggest you go back and watch part 1 of this series. So we have Automotive Primary School on the left, and there are plots and houses all around. From this point onwards, you could see the track would straighten out a lot more. And past the next level crossing, the trains would really start opening up and picking up speed getting out of town. Next section you could say would be the open road. It's out of the city, runs past Fairview Race Course, the famous horse racing circuit, all the way up to the flight school. Not a house in sight, just maintenance access roads, trees and the railway line itself. With the next crossing a couple of kilometers away, the crew would really start opening up their trains on this section. It's nice and straight, very few hazards to worry about, and hence very few things to talk about, so sit back and relax and enjoy the next few minutes. always wondered what it would be like if we could get into this area with a couple of chainsaws and a bucky and just clear out. There's a lot of people that sell wood on the side of the road for barbecues. Surely with some form of an incentive you could get them clear out this railway line very quickly, get all these trees out of the way, and then even turn a profit from it. I would assume if these trees remain here long enough, they would probably start affecting the gauge and the integrity of the railway line itself. In some sections you can see the ballast has been worn away, driven over. The pathways and the washerways are quite evident sometimes, with some sleepers hanging in the air and other obvious signs of neglect over the years. I will, however, say for a railway line that hasn't been used in 13 years, it's surprisingly intact. Especially in this section, the ballast still looks good, the sleepers still look intact and firm. If it was up to me, I would run a train through here, no problem. Obviously just getting rid of the trees first. And here we found ourselves at the clearing in front of Fairview Race Course. And as far as I understand, all operations at the race course had ceased as of quite recently. The owners have decided to pack up shop and leave for greener pastures. There was some employment dispute in the news, and it ended with quite an unfortunate event where some of the animals were harmed. And that was the end of it. And here on the right we have a typical small holding settlement. Probably some of these guys were employed by Fairview Race Course. And they grow their own crops, they keep their own livestock. Just a small community here in the middle of nowhere. And if you look on the left at the railway line, you can see the state of the ballast is a lot poorer, as there's a lot more foot traffic in this area. The ballast subsides and it leaves the sleepers a lot more exposed. Here's some of that livestock I was talking about earlier. And now we approach the access road to the flight school. So just outside of Port Elizabeth is a flight school called Progress, and that is now across the railway line to the left. After topping up our fluids, we are back on the road and following the railway line through to St Albans. At this point the goose isn't really sure whether she put her GoPro on or not, so she flags me down so we could take a look. At this point in our journey, it becomes apparent that the road we are on is not that often used, as you can see with me swerving from side to side. This area I would definitely not recommend for a vehicle. The bikes are ideal though, but you can see it's going to get quite gnarly up ahead. Regardless, we keep a good pace, with me keeping a watchful eye out for any obstacles we might encounter. Quite a number of these little water drifts spaced out across the line. And naturally the goose decides to take the high road. I noticed quite a few pieces of loose wire lying around, and I can't help but worry about a piece getting stuck in a sprocket or some spokes.
Wow.
The goose finds a skittish canine who proceeds to run away in fear. Meanwhile, I find an access road that crosses the railway line, but there's no option to keep following the railway line. So the natural second best option would be, let's follow the access road and see where that leads. Although I'd still like to be travelling next to the railway line, so there's always a double check to see if I haven't missed the path. But in this case it's clear we're just going to have to follow the road and rejoin the railway line at a later stage. The building you briefly saw to the left is Hitech Automotive, where kit cars are manufactured for the export market. Anything from AC Cobras to kit car GT40s, they are built right here in our very own Port Elizabeth. Now, that being said, I'm not 100% sure whether we're allowed to be on this road. So the safest thing to do is to hoof it to the gate and rejoin the railway line. Every now and again I glance over to see if I can spot the railway line to my right. With off-road bikes such as ours, it's always better to stay off the tarmac and save the knobblies that we have on. We rejoin the public tar road and start looking for the railway crossing to St Albans. One lonely DZ wagon at the start of the siding, and then a whole rake of old cement wagons left here to rot. And for comparison, this is what St Albans looked like 20 years ago. Mind you, I was at this station about 4 years ago in 2020, and it looked a lot worse and a lot more overgrown. So someone's definitely been cleaning up in this area. The station looks better now than it did 4 years ago. Unfortunately, the guys have gotten to all the bearings in all the axle boxes on these wagons. None of them have any bearings left, which means they're here to stay. Looking at the line on my right, you can see the wooden sleepers across the point section, which were never replaced, even though the counterweights have been stolen since. These wooden sleepers are very sought after. Every guy who's built a bar in his backyard has got at least 2 or 3 of them. I'm not finding a nice path on this side of the line, so maybe we should cross over. Maybe the other side's got something better for us. Come on, Goose, you can do it. This section's reasonably smooth sailing, down tree every now and again in your way. Other than that, the grass is getting a little bit taller. There's a few water storm drains here and there, but it's smooth sailing for the most part. I noticed the track's a little overgrown, which might be an issue. Ironically, I give the goose a word of caution. Tell her to be careful when riding in this area, as we're essentially on the railway line. And then this happened. Now, the one thing I learnt about falling down with grace is to get up as quickly as possible and pretend it never happened. So off we go. In this section of the trip, you can see the grass growing a little taller than usual, which is an issue because it makes it difficult to see where you're riding. Back in the day with the steam locomotives, this grass was also quite a significant problem, because as the steam locomotive threw sparks off, sometimes the bush would catch alight and it would cause significant fires, and the farmers and the owners of the land were usually not too impressed with us. So during the dry season and times where fires were more likely, the crew in the guards van right at the back of the train used to keep an eye out for smoke and possible fires. If smoke was spotted, the train was summarily stopped, reversed, and the crew jumped out with their firefighting equipment and would put out fires before they would spread onto the private land. Being a non-profit volunteer group running the Apple Express, we had to try and keep the public on our side. The going's a little slower through the tall grass. As the pathway opens up and the visibility improves, we can pick up the pace slightly. With the buildings in the surrounds, in the area, it seems that there are a few pathways that are regularly used. These are mostly footpaths that connect the settlements in the area, like the one on the left here. A little tight for a bike to get through, but not too much of a mission. What you should really watch for in these kind of areas is things that humans leave lying around, such as loose wires.
Niks nie, dit is nie. Nee, hy sê so my.
Now, just to add, the goose did really well to stop when she did, because this barbed wire could have caused some serious damage to either her or the bike.
Hy was soos dol by my kyk aan het.
After wrestling with it for a few minutes, managed to get the wire loose. Luckily with no damage to the bike or the goose, so off we go. Ever since we've gotten these helmet intercoms that we can talk to each other while on the ride, it's been extremely helpful. I'm able to communicate to her whatever's up ahead so she can prepare for it. She can also call back if she gets stuck and I can stop immediately. It prevents me having to look around and check for her every now and again, which prevents me from being able to see any obstacles coming up. So, win all around. As far as obstacles go, nothing slows you down as quickly as a blowdown cock of a steam locomotive. or the dreaded South African barbed wire fence. So this landowner obviously recognized that the line's not in commission anymore, and as you can see clearly on this map, he's just extended his boundaries to other side of the railway line. As I mentioned before, it's quite common to see people spanning fences across. Doesn't make it right, but there should be a way around. Let's have a look and see if we can carry on. We're already starting to draw some attention from the people in the settlement on the left here. They obviously know something that we don't know yet. I'm hoping that we can get to a point where there's a gap in the fence, or we can just ride all along this fence over here to be able to stay with the line. And this is not what I wanted to see.
Bikes don't work, right?
We could try and drag our bikes through that gap in the fence and carry on, but the people around you don't take too kindly to trespassing, and the chances that the fence is going to be equally as accessible on the other side, it's a gamble that I'm not willing to take. So time to find another route around or call it a day.
Yeah.
At this point already there's a Madala waiting at the settlement watching us struggle. He's waiting for us to ask him what the best route is out. He reckons he's going to escort us to show us the road out of here. And with that, we decide we're going to call it a day, head home and get some ice cold beers. Thanks for watching this to the end. If you liked this video, feel free to subscribe. I hope to upload another one soon. If you got any suggestions on where we can go and explore next, let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers!